I am Nikita Murthy, Faculty of Information Science and Engineering, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. In the last session, we saw the web and the HTTP. Under this, we are talking about HTTP message format, and we had also studied HTTP request message format. Today, we are going to see how the HTTP response message format is going to be seen. So, this is how the HTTP response message format will look like. This is the typical response message. Here it is divided into 3 parts. The very first line we call it as a status line. The remaining 6 lines are called header lines, and the last part is the entity part. This is where the respond message or the respond object is going to reside. This is where all the data will be sitting. Now we will see the status line. The status line is divided into again 3 parts. The first one is called protocol version. The second one is status code. The third one is called status information. The status line is divided into 3 parts. First part is the protocol version, that will gives the what is the version of the HTTP which you are using. Next is the status code, this I am going to explain in the later, and this status information, what is the information which you are receiving. 200 means the request is successful, and OK is the information that will be given to the client by the server. Next is the header line. First is the header name connection. Here, since I want it to be a non-persistent connection, I am asking the server to close the TCP connection after responding to this request. Next is the date. This is where if I have requested an Amazon website, this date will give when was the Amazon website was created. That means on Tuesday 9th of August 2011 at 3:44 p.m. GMT, Greenwich time, this is the standard time. At this time the web page was created. That means this date gives us when the object was created. Next is the server. To which server we are requesting? Suppose here we are requesting to the Apache server, that is why I am specifying it as Apache. Next is last modified. Here this date tells us when the object was created. This will tell us when the object was last modified, when was last updated. So, on 9th of August Tuesday the web page was updated. Next is the content length. What is the length of the web page which we have requested, and what is the type of request which you have asked? It could be HTML, PHP, JavaScript, that also we are going to mention. And the last part is the entity body. Here it contains the data as the response to our request. So, in the status line we saw there was a protocol version, status code and the status information. That information they have listed few. The first is 200 OK, which we saw it in the example. 200 OK means this is the status code, this is the status message which is associated with the status code. OK means the request which the client has sent is successful, and as a response we are sending the information. Next is 301 moved permanently. The web page or the object the client is requesting, it is not found in the requested URL, it has been moved to the new URL. That URL will also be provided as the response. Next is 400 bad request. That means the request or the object which you have requested is error, that cannot be understood by the server. Next is 404 not found. The object which the client has requested, it is not found on the server. Next is 505 HTTP version not supported. That means the version which we are going to specify as the HTTP protocol version, it is not supported by the server. This is the general format of the HTTP response message. First, as I said, status line, header line, and to differentiate between one message to another message, we are going to provide blank line. In the entity, we are going to provide the message. Next is the status line is divided into 3 parts: version, status code, and the status message. And header lines is divided into header field name and the value, which is going to continue. There will be 6 lines of header field, and then a blank line to differentiate, and the entity body. The next topic which we are going to study under the web and the HTTP is user server interaction cookies. Now, before we move into the cookies, I want you to know HTTP is a stateless protocol. That means HTTP does not save the user information. Now, suppose as a user I have asked for a Amazon page and the server has responded the Amazon web page. Now, again after a few seconds, if I again ask the server to send the web page, the same Amazon web page, the server will respond the same web page. It does not say that the same user has asked the same page recently. Instead of saving the information about the user, it will keep on responding to the request. That means it does not save any information regarding the server. For sometimes we may want to use the user information, we may want to store the information. For that we are going to use cookies. The cookies will allow the websites to save the user information. How the cookies will help us to save the information, how does it work, we will see now. this diagram explains the cookie interaction between the client and the server. Suppose this is the client, let it be Susan. Susan is the client who is interacting with the server, and this is the server which sends the response message, and here this is the cookie file. Whatever the web pages or the website which you have visited, the particular cookie will be saved in the cookie file. Now, suppose let us assume Susan has visited eBay file few months back, that eBay cookie is already stored in the cookie file of the client. Now, she wants to open a Amazon web page, that is why she is requesting a message to the server. What it does, the server will create the unique ID. That means, to identify the user specifically and uniquely and to differentiate between each user, the server will create a unique identification number. Let us assume it is 1678 for Susan, and that will be stored it in the server database, and then the same will be sent through set cookie head of field to the client, and that unique identification number along with the Amazon cookie will be stored in the client web end system. Now she has requested a connection, and the Amazon web page, it has replied, and again she is browsing through the web page. She is ordering some product. Let us say she has ordered a face wash. Now she is requesting the message along with the same cookie and the identification number. So when the request is received, the server does not create again ID, because it is already recognized it as Susan. That means, using this identification number 1678, after knowing this, the server will directly identify the client, and then it will just take the action which has been specified by the cookie, and it will respond to that message. After few weeks, again she has opened a web page, Amazon web page. Again, if she is going to request to the server, the same cookie will be sent, and here also just the response will be sent. Why do we need to have a cookie? What is the use of storing the user information means? You might have seen recommendations. Now, if you open a YouTube and if you have searched few videos, let us say you have searched networks, computer networks video, after few weeks if you open a YouTube, you will get a recommendations of other related topic videos, isn't it? That means, what are the user is searching, what product the user is interested, those information will be saved by the server, and the same could be used to give the recommendations to the user. For this purpose, cookies are very useful. The next topic which we are going to study under web and HTTP is web caching. Web caching is also called as a proxy server. As the name itself says, proxy server, that means it acts on behalf of the original server. That means now a client has requested an object, means instead of going to the server and requesting the object, and the server has to go through all of its database and get the object and then send it back to the client, isn't it? This may take a longer time. That is why we are going to use the web cache. Instead of whatever the recently requested or the most frequently requested objects can be stored in the web page, and then if the client has requested the same page, means the web cache can immediately respond to the client instead of sending it to the server, which is a time taken process. As you could see in the diagram, there are two clients which are connected to the web cache, and web cache is again connected to few server. Now client has requested an object, client wants to request an object. The first, the client has to establish a TCP connection with the web page, and then web page has to respond the acknowledgement saying that connection is established successfully to the client. And then even the web cache also has to establish a TCP connection with the server. Now client has requested the object, that object will be sent, that request message will be sent to the web page. The web page will search it in the storage, because web page also owns a disk storage, it will search in its storage. If that request the client is asking is present, it will respond back to the client. And if the request object is not present in the web cache, then it will send the request back to the server where that object is residing, and the server will search through its database and then it will respond back, and the web cache copy that object into its storage and then it will respond back to the client. That means whatever the client is requesting, first it will send it to the cache. If the object is present, it will respond. If it is not present, it will send it to the server, and after server has sent the object, it will store the object, it will make the copy of that, and then it will send back to the client. Here you could see the web cache is acting both as client and the server. When the client is requesting, the web cache is acting as a server. When it is redirecting it to the server, it is acting as a client. That means when it is receiving the request, it acts as server. When sending the request, it is acting as client. Why do we need to have a web cache? What is the use of having the web cache in intermediate? Because the traffic, there will be limited servers and there will be millions of client requests. The traffic load will be more, which can cause the performance loss. That is why if we have a web cache, that traffic load can be distributed and the overhead can be reduced. And one more advantage is that web cache is fast compared to the server, and the response time for the client will be very less, that instantly the request will be responded to the client. the next topic which we are going to study is the conditional get. Before we explain the conditional get, let's assume a scenario where client has requested a Amazon page. The client has requested the Amazon page, the web cache has received the request, it is searching in its storage, that is not present in the web cache. What it does? It will send the request to the server and the server will respond back the Amazon page to the cache. Cache will make the copy of that Amazon and then it will send the response to the client. Now, after the client web cache has copied the Amazon, after few hours the Amazon has updated the server. Here Amazon has updated the web page Amazon, there is a updated version of the Amazon in the server, but the copy which is residing in the web cache, it is the older version, it does not has the updated version. Now, when the client will request the Amazon page after few weeks again, the web cache will send the response of the older version of the Amazon, because since the copy is already present and it does not ask the server. That means the client is getting the older version, the updates are not getting by the server. To get rid of this problem, we are using conditional get. To get rid of that problem, as I said, we are going to use the conditional get. The conditional get which helps us to have for the web page to have the updated versions of all the objects which the client has requested. That means, we can say the request message is a conditional get message only if it contains these two parameters. That means, the request message should have a get method, and then it should also include if modified since. It should also include if modified since header line, then only we call that message as a conditional get method. So, this is the typical conditional get message. Here along with the header line and the status line, here we are also using if modified since header value in the header line. That means, here it is satisfying two parameters of the conditional get. It is using get method also, it is using if modified since header field also. That means, we can say this message as a conditional get message. Now, if we want to get a or we are requesting a Kiwi image or a Kiwi GIF from the Fruits host. That means, from the Fruits website we are requesting a Kiwi GIF, but we want the updated GIF. That is why we are using if modified since. That means, it says if the message or if the website has been modified since 7 September of 2011, then get me the updated version. Now, if we send this request, the client will send this request to the web cache. So, as it sees it is a get message, conditional get message, the web cache will send it to the server. The server will check whether the object, the requested object has been modified since this date and the time. If it is modified, it will send the new object. If it is not modified, it will send the empty object or the empty response message. So, with this we have finished the topic, the web and the HTTP. Thank you.